This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. And this one comes from Dan Teston in Texas. Dan asks me about how to respond to an argument that runs as follows. If workers succeed in raising wages, all the employer will do is pass on the higher wages by jacking up the price of whatever the worker helps to produce. And then in the end, won't the rising prices undercut the whole point and purpose of getting a wage increase? I want to divide this important question into two parts. First, let me talk about what the logic is, what the economics are around a wage increase and what happens to price. And then we'll turn to the second part about how price increases undercut wage increases. So here we go. The first issue is easy to respond to. It is wrong economics. It's poor analysis to imagine that a wage increase automatically produces a price increase to compensate the employer for paying. I could show you thousands of cases, real empirical cases, where wages went up and no increase in price happened. So we know, in fact, there's no necessity for the wage increase to lead to a price increase. But we can also handle it theoretically by showing you, which I'm about to do, why the price of something is shaped by many, many factors. The wage paid to the worker is only one of them. So that if someone tells you there's a necessary relationship between the wage on the one hand and the price on the other, they're pulling your leg, and they're usually doing it because it's convenient for employers who have to go to a public when they raise prices to blame it on the workers, to blame it on wage increases for the workers. That way the employer, who's raising prices to make more money, can appear not to be the one who's at fault here. He's merely reacting to the wage increase imposed upon him, etc., etc., etc. So here we go. If a wage goes up, the employer can do the following. Number one, he can search harder than he did before to save money on one of the other inputs to production besides workers. The cost of the energy you're using, the cost of the inputs you're using, the cost of the tools, the equipment, the machines. If those go down, either because you work at it or because you're just fortunate, at the same time that the wages go up, the one cancels the other, and there is no need for you to change the price. Let me give you another example. If workers' productivity goes up, that is, if workers become more productive, in an hour of effort, they produce 10 units of output, where before they only produced, let's say, 8. That's called an increase in productivity. You're getting more out of the worker. You're having more to sell from that worker's hour of labor. So even if you pay him more, you're going to be getting the more revenue of his extra productivity. You don't have to raise the prices on top of that, do you? Of course, you can try to. Employers try to raise their prices all the time. But there's no necessity that they do so. And their claim to the contrary is dishonest. And I'm being as polite as I know how to be. Then there's another way to get at it. The price is what the market will bear. What an employer can charge for the goods or the services workers help produce depends on the demand, depends on people's tastes, depends on how much income they have to spend. All of those things will shape and influence what price he can charge. To claim that all of those other factors somehow don't count and that what's driving the price is this one thing, you should be deeply suspicious. And the only way to confirm that a rising price is due to the wages as opposed to all of these other influences, you would have to look at the books of the company, which the company and that employer will almost never let you see. So they hold back the only real information that could confirm the claim they make. Do you smell a rat here? Good, you should. Last point. That point in the second part of Dan Tester's questions. Does a rising price undo the wage increase? You bet it does. In economics, we have a term called the real wage. And that's what we call when you adjust the wage you get, the money you get per hour, for the prices you have to pay. And the reason is simple. If you get 10% more wage, but everything you buy costs 10% more, your extra wage in money doesn't translate into an extra wage in terms of the real bundle of goods and services you can afford to buy with that wage. The real wage, therefore, measures what has happened to prices. And one of the ways that working people have been screwed in a capitalist system is that capitalists have every incentive to raise the prices because it'll improve their profits in most cases. And so, of course, they do. And they don't care that when they do that, the value of your money wage goes down. That has often led working people and trade unions to think that it might be wise, especially when you're going for a wage increase, to begin to exercise controls, government and other kinds of controls on prices. Otherwise, you permit the employer to go through the ritual of giving you a higher wage, only to take it back by jacking up the prices, which give you a real wage increase that is next to nothing. I hope this has made these questions clearer. Thank you to our Patreon community as always. And this is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.